So today we will be talking about everyone's favorite topic and everyone's favorite emotion to feel, which is shame. So, what is shame? Shame is the feeling and belief that we are inherently bad, that we are inherently unworthy of love, that we're fundamentally just not good, okay? Now, we need a certain level of shame. No one wants to be shameless, but there gets a point where we take in too much shame, where it sends the nervous system into a state of chronic fight or flight, and the shame in of itself becomes toxic. We internalize it way too much. So toxic shame often starts off in childhood, and it results from child abuse, right? From keeping family secrets, from emotional neglect, right? From not having our needs met. But oftentimes, right, it's due to our real, true, authentic self as children not being validated, not feeling valued by our caretakers and our environment and anyone else around us that we feel was important. All right, toxic shame, right, if we carry a lot of it, can oftentimes unconsciously drive a lot of our behaviors and actions. Many of the things we do are just an unconscious attempt from feeling into all the shame, from feeling how bad we actually feel about ourselves, right? Toxic shame oftentimes leads to addiction. It leads to codependency. It's a big underlying factor behind narcissism, right? Behind chronic anxiety, perfectionism, withdrawing socially, okay? So, the more toxic shame that we carry, the more separated, the more divided we become from our true authentic self. And there's multiple components to this divided self if we carry a lot of shame, all right? So, what is the divided self? Well, the more shame you carry, the more that you are going to try to live up to this ideal self, right? This is who we believe we should be. It is this picture in our head of what we need to, what we yearn to be, what we need to be to receive the love and affection that'll make us feel valued. The problem is that this ideal self, right, isn't realistic. It's so hard to even live up to this ideal, and even if you do, you're so separated from genuine, authentic feelings and emotions, right? By the time that you are embodying this ideal self, right, your genuine feelings and emotions have your toxic shame has completely overshadowed your genuine feelings and beliefs, okay? Then there's a persona. This is what we show to others. This is oftentimes an effect of like codependency. It's this false self that we present to the world, and our thinking and our behaviors are kind of are done or are built around another person, another process, another object, right? We're just trying to gain approval and validation from a person or from the environment around us, and we organize our thoughts and our actions to get this result. But once again, it's not authentic. And this persona, right, what we're showing to the world is just us trying to live up to this ideal self, and we organize those thoughts and behaviors around that. Then we have our inner critic, our devalued self, right? These are the behaviors and thoughts from that inner shaming dialogue, okay? So as children, if we weren't able to process our anger, our frustration, our resentment, right, it wasn't allowed in the home or something, or we're ashamed for feeling angry or for feeling resentful towards our caretakers, we will take that anger and we will turn it inwards. And so that anger then becomes this shaming critic, right? And it shames us and tells us how bad we are for having thoughts or beliefs or anything that doesn't align with the ideal self. But once again, the ideal self is unrealistic, right? You can't actually embody this. It's not humanly possible from an authentic level. So anytime that you have desires or you make mistakes, you're constantly shaming yourself for it. You're constantly telling yourself how bad you are for it. And then you start to feel like a bad person. You become this devalued self where you start to embody all your shame. You start to feel, wow, I'm just a terrible person. Then there's the real, true, authentic self. It's the real you. It's the real you that's carrying all those emotions, all those feelings that apparently that conflicts with your ideal self. But the more that you release your toxic shame or internalized shame, the more you can embody your authentic self. When you are your true self, you feel whole, right? And we attain this true self by acknowledging and accepting all our thoughts, behaviors, right? Our desires, right? Not shaming ourselves for it, not feeling that we're bad, right? For making mistakes, right? For doing things that other people might not accept. We have a genuine idea of what makes us happy, what makes us fulfilled. Our actions aren't driven to meet what we think other people want from us, right? We do what matters to us because we have a high sense of self. Right? As someone who came from a lot of child abuse, I had a very divided self, and it's something I'm still working through. But the more I feel into my shame, the more I release it, and the more that I ask myself what my needs are, right? The more that I can start to step into this real, authentic self. So, what are coping strategies against shame? Well, there's moving against people, and this is oftentimes what results in narcissism, right? So it's this need for power, for control, for perfection. You're exploiting others, right? You constantly want to be in charge of others. You want admiration, you want achievement, right? You are basically seeking to dominate other people to hide yourself from your shame. Another one is moving away from people, detachment. This is social isolation, a need for privacy, withdrawing, just not engaging in life because you're afraid to make a mistake with other people that would bring about your shame. So you just don't participate. Then there's moving towards people, and this is more so in the codependence realm. This is compliance, right? This is those people that are always in relationships. They always need to agree with everyone else. They have this constant need for affection and validation, like I'm doing a good job. Kind of fall into this myself, working on it. Other common defenses, denial and repression, right? I don't have shame. I have no shame. I'm perfect. Great. Withdrawal, once again, just pulling ourselves away, not engaging in life, right? Projection, this is a big one. And we all do it. It's okay. Oftentimes that can happen a lot in relationships. When we don't want to sit with our shame, we'll dump it onto someone else, okay? There's also arrogance and contempt. I'm so great, I'm superior, look at me, yada, yada, yada. It's just a way to avoid your shame. There's envy, right? When we don't feel good about ourselves, we can become very jealous and envious of other people. The more that you find yourself being envious of someone else, it's likely due to you carrying a lot of internalized shame. And then there's the self-pity. So a person always feels the victim. They're playing the victim role. Life is happening to them. The world is against me, yada, yada, yada. They don't want to take responsibility for themselves because then they'd have to feel all their internal shame, right? So they just think the world is against them. They're putting the onus on someone else. So, how do we heal shame? Well, our first step is we have to notice when shame arises or there's this acute shame attack. Like an acute shame attack is essentially when you trip at a party and you spill your drink all over yourself and you start to feel embarrassed. Right? So it's when you're feeling embarrassed or defeated or you're feeling rejected, right? You might be feeling into a deeper level of, you're feeling the surface level of what on a deep level is shame, okay? Or you start to notice that there's thoughts of being unworthy, that I'm bad, that I'm a fraud, that I shouldn't be at this job, that I'm no good, the relationship didn't work out because it's all my fault. If this is your dialogue, everything is about you being bad, right? The person gave you a dirty look over there. That must be because you're so bad. That's shame coming about. That is your deep internalized shame happening. So, this is my personal belief. The next step is to locate where the shame is stored in the physical body. Do a body scan and see where this feeling resides. Okay? Shame does not feel good. Just gonna say it. It's a disgusting, repulsive feeling. You feel gross. But if we want to release it, if we don't want it to unconsciously drive all our behaviors and actions, we have to experience it. So located in the body, it's oftentimes going to be in the root, like the base of our spine, or our sacrum, right below the navel, or our upper abdominal area. All right? Then we have to uncover the roots of the shame. So feel into the shame, experience, breathe into it, right? And then ask yourself, what is this shame due to? Where did it come from? Sit with it, be with it, and notice any body sensations that come up. Notice any thoughts that arise around a person, place, or event from the past. Once we kind of have a concept of where the shame comes from, what its root cause was, right? We own it, we accept it, and we integrate it. With shame, you don't want to push it away. You don't actually want to reject it. You want to say, oh, this is mine to have. No. Acknowledge it. right? Accept it. This is, I feel shameful right now in this moment. When you own it and you accept it and you acknowledge it, right? It's no longer this big bad boogeyman, okay? At the same time, you have to integrate it. Have compassion for yourself now. That's really tough. That child was really tough. I was really told I was bad a lot, and so I feel bad about myself right now. All right? You grieve the event that created the shame. I wish that didn't happen to me. That is really sad that I, as a child, I was made to feel that I was inherently bad. Then our last one is we let the inner child know that it's not their fault. It's not your fault, little one. We deserve better from our parents. Then we vocalize and share our shame with someone else. Shame is isolating. It's meant to feel like it's meant to keep you from being intimate, from sharing yourself with others. Okay? So we take its potency away by not isolating ourselves, by sharing and being vulnerable. Connection, intimacy comes from being vulnerable. We release our shame by being vulnerable with other people, right? Our real self, our authentic self is strengthened from vulnerability. All right? When we can vocalize and share our shame, the masks that we erect that create the divided self, right? The ideal self, the persona, all those things, they begin to fall away. That's why it's so important to be around people and to find a social circle who aren't going to shame you. As someone who's dealt with addiction in his life, part of the recovery process was being around people who did not shame me or make me feel bad for slipping up, but still held me accountable. Shaming is what we need to get rid of in society. Stop shaming people for political beliefs. Stop shaming people because they have an opinion that differs from yours, right? You can educate them, hold them accountable, responsible, but don't tell them they're a bad person because it'll just push them further and further away. Thank you for watching this video. Please make sure to subscribe to my YouTube channel and see you next time.